Welcome to Spider Stories. Today, we'll be sharing allegedly true janitor horror stories. Story 1. It was a dark and stormy night, and I was working the late shift as a janitor at the old abandoned school. The place had a reputation for being haunted, but I had always dismissed it as just local folklore. That is, until I experienced something that I couldn't explain. I was making my rounds, cleaning and emptying trash cans, when I heard a faint whisper coming from one of the classrooms. I stopped in my tracks, straining to listen, but the whisper had already stopped. I shrugged it off as the wind and continued on my way. But as I made my way down the hallway, I started to feel like I was being watched. I turned around, but there was no one there, just empty classrooms and hallways. I shook my head and told myself it was just my imagination. I was about to leave the school when I heard the whisper again, this time louder and more distinct. It sounded like a child's voice, saying my name over and over. I froze in fear, not sure what to do. Suddenly, the lights in the school flickered and went out. I was plunged into darkness, and the whisper turned into a chilling laugh. I stumbled back, trying to find my way out, but the doors seemed to have locked behind me. I was trapped in the school with whatever was haunting it. I fumbled in my pocket for my phone, using the light from the screen to guide me. As I turned a corner, I saw a figure standing in the shadows. It was a young girl, with long, tangled hair and a pale, ghostly face. She was dressed in a tattered school uniform, and she was staring at me with empty, soulless eyes. I backed away, terrified, but the girl followed me, her laughter echoing through the halls. I ran, trying to escape, but no matter how fast I moved, she always seemed to be right behind me. As I reached the end of the hallway, I felt a cold hand on my shoulder. I screamed and turned around, but there was no one there, just the empty hallways and the ghostly girl still following me with her chilling laugh. I finally managed to make it out of the school, but the experience left me shaken and scared. I never went back to that place, and I never spoke about what happened that night. But I often wonder about the ghostly girl and what she wanted from me. Was she trying to scare me, or was there something more sinister at play? Story 2. It was a dark and stormy night, and I was just finishing up my shift as a janitor at the old, abandoned hospital on the edge of town. The place had a reputation for being haunted, but I never really believed in ghosts or any of that supernatural stuff. I just figured it was a way for the hospital to drum up some business, since it had been closed down for years. As I made my way through the empty corridors, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I kept turning around, but there was never anyone there. It was just my imagination playing tricks on me, I told myself. But then I heard a noise behind me. I spun around, heart racing, but again, there was no one there. I tried to shake it off and continued my rounds, making sure to lock up all the doors and turn off all the lights. But as I made my way to the basement, the feeling of being watched became overwhelming. I could feel someone's presence, even though I was alone in the building. I tried to tell myself it was just my imagination, but I couldn't shake the feeling. As I descended the stairs to the basement, I heard a faint whispering sound. It was like someone was trying to speak to me, but the words were garbled and distorted. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but it sent chills down my spine. I tried to ignore it and focus on my work, but the whispers seemed to get louder and more insistent. I could feel someone, or something, right behind me. I turned around, but again, there was no one there. I was about to leave the basement when I saw something out of the corner of my eye. It was a shadow moving along the wall. I froze, unsure of what to do. The shadow seemed to be getting closer and closer until it was right in front of me. I couldn't see a face, but I could feel the presence of something malevolent. It seemed to be beckoning me, trying to lure me into the darkness. I knew I had to get out of there, but my feet seemed rooted to the ground. Just when I thought I couldn't take it any longer, I heard a loud banging noise. It was the sound of the front doors being slammed open. I turned and ran, not stopping until I was outside in the rain. I never went back to that hospital again. I never told anyone about my experience, but I know that whatever was in that basement was not of this world. I'll never forget the feeling of being watched and the sound of those garbled whispers. It was a night I'll never forget, and one I hope I never have to experience again. Story 3. It was a calm fortnight in the small town of Oakwood, and I was working the night shift as a janitor at the local elementary school. The building was quiet and empty, save for the occasional creak of the old wooden floors or the sound of my footsteps echoing through the hallways. I had been working at the school for a few years now, and nothing out of the ordinary had ever happened. That is, until the night that I encountered the ghost of the former janitor. As I was making my rounds, I noticed that one of the classroom doors was slightly ajar. I thought it was strange, since I always made sure to lock all of the doors before leaving for the night. I hesitated for a moment before pushing the door open, unsure of what I might find inside. The room was dark and cold, and as I made my way towards the light switch, I felt a presence behind me. I turned around, but there was nothing there. I shrugged it off as my imagination getting the best of me and continued on with my duties. But the feeling of being watched never left me. Every time I turned around, I thought I saw a figure in the corner of my eye, but when I looked closer, there was nothing there. I tried to brush it off and tell myself it was just my nerves, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. As the night went on, the presence seemed to grow stronger. I could feel it following me as I made my way through the school, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I tried to pick up the pace, but the presence seemed to follow me no matter where I went. It wasn't until I reached the janitor's closet that I finally saw the ghost. As I opened the door, I was greeted by a figure in a janitor's uniform, standing in the corner of the room. I froze in fear, unable to move or speak. The ghost looked at me with empty, soulless eyes, and I knew that I was in grave danger. I tried to run, but my legs wouldn't move. I was trapped, with the ghost closing in on me. I closed my eyes and prayed for help, but no one came. I was alone with the ghost of the former janitor, and I knew that I was about to meet my end. Just when I thought it was all over, I felt a hand on my shoulder. I opened my eyes to see that it was one of the other janitors, who had come to check on me after noticing that I hadn't returned from my rounds. I collapsed in relief, grateful to be alive. The other janitor looked at me in concern and asked me what was wrong. I told him about the ghost and how it had followed me throughout the school. He chuckled and told me that I had probably just been spooked by the old, creaky building. But I knew what I had seen, and I knew that the ghost of the former janitor was real. I never returned to work at that school again. Thank you for joining us on Spider Stories. We hope these horror stories will leave you with a newfound appreciation for the dangers of the unknown. Until next time.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to stay tuned for more true stories.